as I mentioned, let's go back and look at week 3. We had some upsets, some instant classics. In some cases, they came at the same time. And let's start in the ACC. John, number 12, Clemson, upset by Georgia Tech. Your boy was on Georgia Tech. I didn't have the stones to go money line like I hinted at last week, but I took the points. And they win on a last-second run on the field, 55-yard field goal. And now we've all got some serious questions about Clemson. Unranked Clemson, 1-2 Clemson, who I guess still has a shot to make the playoff, plus 570 at BetMGM. Do they, John? Can Clemson claw their way with this schedule that they have back into the playoff picture?
I don't know. I think they're going to have a tough time. I mean, I think it's just kind of starting to settle in about Clemson. You know, they are basically in a situation where, like, this is just what they do every year. They start the year, you know, pretty highly ranked. This was a little different in that I guess we convinced ourselves that Dabo had figured out the portal and had leaned on the portal, and that, you know, it was going to be different this year. But it ends up just kind of always being the same with him. I think this is a program, and I know he went on his rant. I know he's, you know, fired up. But if you just look at the sort of correlation, when the transfer portal became a thing and NIL became a thing, I mean, this program has been left behind. I mean, it's just the reality of it. And I know he's going to point to, you know, oh, well, we've done this, we've won X number of games, won the ACC, and I understand that. But you're talking about, you go from a program that's a national championship perennial contender to, like, they're just like barely ever even relevant come November and December. So I think we're just kind of getting our answer about Clemson and sort of who they are in this new world. And the answer is not really much of anybody.
Yeah, Choppy, this is looking shaky for a team that, granted, has 2 teams left on the schedule that would help bolster things if they beat them, but getting both of them at home in SMU and Florida State. But I don't think Syracuse this weekend, I think they're favored by 17, a trip to Boston College or hosting Furman in the next to last week of the season. Those aren't the things on the schedule that are lining up to help Clemson get their way back into the playoff picture this year.
No, they're not. Clemson's just not very good. You know, the only thing worse than Clemson this year is Arch Manning. Like that's it. Like that's the only thing worse than Clemson football is not a good product. And Dabo can go on his rants and he can, I'll leave. I'll go coach somewhere else. All right. I mean, I'm not going to sit on a beach. And he can say all that, and then he can complain about, well, you want to win? Do you want to win? You tired of winning? I mean, yeah, they kind of are. They're not really winning. They're probably tired of winning just a little bit. They probably want to win a little bit more. But the reality is like, look, and all jokes aside, Dabo's done tremendous there. But he's a fantastic college football coach and a great ambassador for Clemson. Clemson football, you know, if you're 20 years old, all you know is Clemson being great. If you're 45 years old, you know Clemson as this Johnny-come-lately that was just a program that just couldn't beat Florida State. Like, that's all they were in the 90s and the early parts of the 2000s. That's what they were. They were not a great program. They were kind of just they're all right. And Dabo resurrected them. But they're not a playoff team. They are Exhibit A, and Texas is Exhibit B of why we got to get rid of preseason polls. Alabama's another one too. Just get rid of them, right? Like that's not a good team. They were never the 4th best team in the country. We need to get rid of these preseason polls. Thank goodness the committee doesn't use them, because all these AP voters want to be beholden to what they thought in August. But no, the Clemson's not good, and they do not have that is a terrible schedule. Terrible schedule.
Yeah, for making up ground in the polls or in the rankings, you're right. They just don't have a lot left. Like I said, SMU and Florida State, both of them in Death Valley, but I don't know if that's enough, even if they run the table after the way they've started the year. So who do we like, John, to win the ACC? Miami's the prohibitive favorite right now, plus 150. Georgia Tech opened a lot of eyes that hadn't been open to them previously, plus 375 at BetMGM. Florida State in the conversation. The win over Bama bolsters their resume, obviously, and we mentioned they get Clemson later in the year. Is it Miami and then everybody else, or do Tech and the Noles have a legit shot to win this thing?
Yeah, I mean, Miami's just a cut above. I mean, all respect to Georgia Tech and Florida State, and certainly they've got Florida State beating Alabama. That win looks better and better every single week. So I definitely don't think it's just a runaway. But I think Miami, when you talk about bringing in Carson Beck, those offensive and defensive lines, you see they just completely dismantled a South Florida team that was feeling really good. I just think they're a cut above. So it's definitely Miami's to lose. I would say Florida State I take a little more seriously than Georgia Tech. I'm not even sure that Clemson win's going to look all that great by the end of the year. But I would definitely say Miami. I know it's the favorite, and that's chalky, but I do think they are deservedly the favorite and a cut above everybody else in that league.
They are better. If they played Georgia Tech in the regular season, I think Miami wins. But listen, I don't know how Georgia Tech's going to get through this gauntlet. They've got Temple, Wake Forest, Vodtech, Duke, Syracuse, NC State, BC, and Pitt before they play Georgia at the end of the year. They're going to win the regular season. They're going to go undefeated through the regular season. And Miami has to go to Florida State. Like, that's not a gimme.
Mm-hmm.
The value, there's no value on Miami, obviously. There's not really any value on Georgia Tech. The value might lie with Florida State. The problem is Florida State's got to go to Clemson. So, like, from a value perspective, whatever Clemson might be, Florida State getting Miami at home, I mean, that's big. That's not nothing.
Well, maybe SMU has entered the chat if we're talking value. Right now, they do have a schedule that's tougher than Georgia Tech's, but they host Miami. They host Florida, I believe they host. Do they host Florida State?
I think it's on the road. They played Florida State last year at home.
That's right. Thank you. But they've got Clemson, granted a road game, but like John said, who knows what Clemson really is and whether that win would help them at all or not. Point being, SMU at 15-1. If you're looking a little farther down the board, is that legitimate, John, or do we need to see a couple more dominoes fall?
Yeah, I just think you're throwing blind darts, which is fine. I mean, people do it every day, but it's not where my money would go.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. Like, if you're looking for a sleeper that's back down there a little bit, I honestly think Cal, from a standpoint that look, they get SMU at home. They don't have a brutal road game. I guess at Louisville is probably their toughest road game. And teams going west. Something freaky happens when you go west, like out there, right? Something freaky happens. Was it Miami last year that should have beat? From I'm not mistaken, it was at the very end of the game, right?
Yes. They were up at the half. And
yeah. I mean, Cal at 30-1. I mean, that's a decent shot.
So it's a long number, and that's intriguing at that number. But yeah, I think more dominoes would have to fall for me to get to Cal as a look. SMU's one I keep an eye on just to see how the next couple weeks shake out as well. I don't think that's one that I necessarily throw the dart at yet.